you just clicked on this, this probably means you want to learn how to install some sprinkles. So let's get into it. Today, I'm going to walk you through your Loc Sprinkle kit that you may have just got in the mail or you're looking to place an order in. I'll be showing you how to install our very fine kit, but really you can use this for any of our Loc Sprinkle kits. I really want to do this kit because it does have some of our smaller Loc Sprinkle beads and our bigger Loc Sprinkle beads. I'll walk you through how to install your beads, how to thread your needle, and really how to remove your beads as well. And this is really gonna be your cheat sheet. So let's get into it. When you get your kit in the mail, obviously you get your really cute Loc Sprinkle beads, but you also get everything to do the install. You get your thread, you get your needle threader, and you also get a needle to help just make the installation process a little bit easier. It'll be in this little pouch or a plastic container. Let's just open that up. She's so cute. Shout out Sprinkle My Locks. Here's what's inside the kit up close. This is your needle threader. Here is your thread in the color that you chose, as well as your needle right there. From here, take that needle out, girl. And you are gonna unravel and start thinking about what do you want your design to look like? What beads are you gonna go in with first? And how much thread do you need? I always recommend cutting the amount of thread, how far you're kind of gonna be going up your lock, if that makes sense. If you wanna go farther up your locks, I always recommend cutting a pretty long string just because, girl, we all make mistakes. And it has to make it up the whole lock shaft. And it could be really annoying if you cut too small of a piece, then you have to rethread your needle again and then do that whole process. Cut extra long. If you don't use all of it, you can just snip it off at the end, okay? In this example, I'm gonna be sprinkling this lock right here. I've cut about maybe a little bit over arm's length. If you can see, like, it's like the diameter of this. It's probably about 2 feet long. Cut that much off of your strand, depending on how long your locks are. Do it right off, doop. And then we're gonna get into probably the most difficult part of this whole process. You are gonna grab your needle threader and thread it through the eye of your needle. From there, then you're gonna grab the end of your piece of thread and put it through that hole in your needle threader. A needle threader makes this easy because it can be really hard, like getting the actual thread through the eye of the needle without it. Once you get it on there though, you're basically just gonna slide that needle down your needle threader until the fabric slides through the needle itself. That may sound a little bit confusing, but as you can see here, the needle now has the thread through the exact needle. And here we just have to tie off a knot to make sure that that thread stays on the needle and is secure. Okay, cool. Now that we got the hard part out the way, we just have to slide to the bottom of our thread and add a knot there. This is how your sprinkles stay in your hair and your thread doesn't just go slipping out your hair. A lot of people say their sprinkles fall out and they aren't putting a knot at the end. The knot sizes can vary, which I'm not going to get too much into that. Here, I'm doing 2 knots on top of each other because I like my knots a little bit bigger, but that's really optional. You can do 1 knot, and then when I talk about later in the videos the different methods on install, you can kind of choose what knot method you want to do then.
Started from the bottom, barely make it through the summer. Carl was a loner, never dream of being a baller. She was right there for me while I was shivering in the winter. I saw something special in the way the bitch is awesome. I gave a little package and she double up my profit. Keep a nigga fly while I was stacking up that money. Robbie never trapped, never scared to...
Okay, y'all, now that we got the hard part out the way, which I hope it wasn't that hard since I gave y'all a needle threader, it is the fun part now. It's time to sprinkle our locks. And I promise you, as you do this more often, threading the needle will become easier. Like, I promise you. I know the first time you're like, girl, but hey, at least you know how to thread a needle now. But let's sprinkle these locks, okay? There's a couple methods that you can do to kind of start your stitch. You can actually start by going directly into your lock with no bead attached. Sometimes I do this if I have big decorative beads or I want to make sure that the knot I made at the bottom of my thread is gonna hold like it is here. Or you can add a bead directly to your needle and thread it in, like I'm about to show you. But if you want to go right in and add your first stitch with a bead, you need to make sure that that bead hole is not bigger than the knot that you made at the end of your thread. Let me show you what I mean. Let's stitch in this very small yellow bead. You literally just put it on the end of your needle, pull it through just like we did when there was no bead attached. If we didn't already make the secured stitch, this knot would have to be secured by this bead at the end. That is why if your bead hole is bigger than the knot that you made at your end, that bead's gonna slip out anyway. I usually put like a small bead first if I am gonna go directly in with the bead stitch. If you are a beginner, just do an empty stitch to begin with, just so you can make sure that your thread was threaded right and you don't have to worry about that bead slipping out. From here, girl, just continue that process. Add your beads to your needle and go up the design like I'm about to do. Here's a side-by-side comparison of an 8mm bead. This bead is a lot bigger than this 3mm bead. This 3mm bead is really good if you have like micro locks or sister locks, just because they are smaller and won't like hog up and add extra weight to your locks. Whereas these beads are better if you have like wicks, thicker locks, smaller traditionals, really anything other than micro locks and sister locks, because they really pop on your locks and they show a lot. But I do love doing the 3mm even on my thicker locks. I just have to add a lot more of them and it really looks pretty when I do that. Next, I'm doing this really cute daisy bead, and I kind of want to show you guys how I do like the decorative beads, because I do sometimes put them in differently. So you can do like what we've been doing and just going straight on, but if you want to make sure that your design is facing up a certain way, you see how this is already poking out? You can kind of go above it and make like a loop with your thread. So when you pull out this way, it'll be facing outwards. Does that make sense? Because I basically hit like a Yui with my thread. And so now that bead is like completely 100% secure. So next I want to do my rose bead, but where my thread is at, it won't be facing the front like I want to. I would suggest either doing one more extra bead there, or you can do an empty stitch with no bead until you get the direction you want, but more sprinkles, the better. I'm going to put my red bead right here, so my needle will come out exactly where I want my rose bead to go. Perfect. It's secure. Here is the beautiful rose bead we're going to put in next. So very similar to the daisy, I like these beads to make sure that they're facing the right way. So I do usually hit like a quick Yui with these ones as well. If you see the thread right now, it's coming straight out of my lock, the exact direction that I need it to face. So I'm in a perfect spot to literally just hit a Yui. I just usually go a little bit above where it's at and just pull through from there. Your bead probably will drop just because it's so heavy. Okay, boom. And you pull it right through, and now it's facing the exact direction that I need. You can leave it like this, but since you are using one strand, this is where for my big beads, they are heavier, so they put more weight on your like thread. I usually like adding in what I call support stitches. So my needle just came out of this way, the bead's facing the right way. I don't have a bead on my needle right now, so what I'm gonna do is just go through my lock one time, and then I usually do like one or two. I'll just do two, and then I do another stitch. And I usually try to make sure that my needle is coming out somewhere where I'd want to put another bead. Now this big bead, girl, she's secure. She's not going nowhere. She's not going nowhere until I cut her out. If you're doing an extra big bead that's a little bit more weight, like our strawberry beads, this is how you input those ones. So this is just an example. I'm just gonna put it right here because I don't really mind. Again, for my big beads, I do the Yui method, where I just literally have my thread that came out of my previous hole and then kind of hit like an Uno reverse like that. But as you can tell here, if I hit this, look, it's falling about, it's falling around. This is where you need to add, again, support stitching. For this bead, I usually do a little bit more. So there's one support stitch. I try to move it around so I'm not poking the same spot of my lock. There's another support stitch. You could be doing beads on here too. When you do support stitching, you can add an extra bead. I just usually don't, because usually when I do my big beads, that's like where my design is ending. But for an example, I can add in another bead. And go from there. Now if you look, she's not going nowhere. So since this is just an example lock, I'm not gonna keep these sprinkles in. I'm gonna tie this off and show you guys how to finish up your design, and then I'm gonna show you how to remove them. So there's a couple different methods that you can use to like remove your stitching. Some people do like extra stitching like I just did, just to make sure the support's really there. And then you tie it off. So you're gonna wanna make a loop with your thread, put your needle through that loop, and then it's gonna start making a knot. You want to get that knot as close as you can to your lock possible. If you can't get it that close, no worries, but it needs to be at least within an inch, okay? You can usually just drag it down. It helps that I have longer nails, I know, but you can usually just drag it down, pull it, so there's a knot. You see I'm still pretty far. If you were closer, you could just have that one knot and cut it through. But what I like to do, since my knot, I need to go a little bit closer for you guys. What I like to do, since my knot is so far, is do one more extra stitch. So I'll just go in, do another stitch. Boom. Now that knot is in here, it's blocking it. So this is not coming out no more. This lock is now secure. What you can do from here is cut that thread. Your lock sprinkles are now secure. Look, girl, tugging on them, doing whatever I want. They're perfectly safe to wash with. The only beads that I recommend switching out often are the metal beads. I'm still looking for gold-plated butterflies, so those ones do tend to tarnish after a couple weeks, so I would switch those out. But all the other beads you can keep in for a few months if you really want to. They're perfectly safe to wash with. Interlocking, I recommend if you do interlock, do not interlock with your sprinkles in. That is what I do. I interlock as well, and I plan my interlocking around my sprinkles. If I know I have to interlock, I take them out because as you're pulling through your roots, they will snag and it can get really annoying. If you retwist though, you're perfectly fine. It doesn't do nothing to them at all. And yeah, very similar to any type of sewing project, you need to find a visible thread. I found this one down here at the bottom by the yellow bead that we put in. I simply just pull that out, make a cut, and from here I can then go up my lock and just pull the beads out, and it's starting to pull the thread out as I go too. Literally only takes a couple minutes. It's a super fast process. Obviously, if you're doing this over your whole head, it may take like 10 minutes rather than this quick like 30 seconds that it's taking me. When I get to my support stitching, I like doing those separately because I don't want it to have to pull all the way throughout my lock because it's just too much. So I make a small cut there, and so it's adding less tension. So they fall out a little bit easier. Does that make sense? Because I did like 3 stitches. So if it's trying to like pull the weight all the way through, you don't want that. And boom. Your lock is now unsprinkled and it's time to put some more in. So yeah, that is how I put in my lock sprinkles, and that is how you can put in yours. If you have any more questions, please check our FAQ below. Hope this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for your support. Bye.